Okay, this is Elizabeth. Now, there are currently 4 mistakes that are happening with Elizabeth's hair. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what those mistakes are. Much more important, how she can fix those mistakes and actually get a more youthful look. And even better, in this particular video, I get to talk about something that I've never talked about before in any of my videos. And that is how body shape actually plays a role in you being able to pick a hairstyle that you love. So, with that said, let's talk about it. Sound good? Yeah, sounds good. Let's do that now. Oh, I almost fell. Oh, and hey, if you're new to the channel, first of all, welcome. My name is Justin Hickox. I've been doing hair since 1995, and on this particular channel, I prefer to take you on adventures while I teach you about hair, which is why we're not in a salon. Yes, the background. Actually, my wife and I are about to start heading out on a little traveling session where we're going to be traveling around the United States, which basically means better backgrounds for you. And if you want to follow those adventures, I'll leave a link in the description of the channel that we'll be sharing all about that trip on. So yeah, go ahead and check that out. For now, what I like to do with this series is I actually like to read the email that the subscriber sent in with their photos so that we can get a better idea of exactly where my suggestions are coming from. And yes, if you are new to this, don't worry, I don't pick these people randomly and put them on blast in a video. They actually do send in submissions asking the question, what mistake am I making with my hair and how can I correct it to get a more youthful look? And then that's how they end up here. So yes, with that said, let's talk about the email. Here are my photos for your consideration. I'm 52 years young and I dye my hair close to the natural brown color. I have fine hair and I have been trying to use the curly girl techniques to bring out the natural wave. I can get some wave, but it needs a lot of products and a lot of time and effort. Loose and carefree styles would be my ideal. I love variety and would love to have options to the styling of the haircut. I don't like things too rigid or stiff or too perfect. It doesn't really go with my personality. People have mentioned to me that my nose and my smile are my best features. I generally don't wear makeup and I'm not wearing any makeup in the photos. This was interesting taking these photos because I don't think about balancing my hair with my body type, which is curvy. But looking at the photos, that is what I notice. I would love to get your feedback and I have learned a lot from your videos. Thank you. No, thank you. I'm just glad that I can even help you guys in any of this stuff, so I appreciate you guys actually paying attention. Now, with that said, I'm really excited that she brought up the idea of body shape and how it affects your decision-making process on choosing the best hairstyle for yourself. And like I said before, I've never spoken about this on any of my other videos, so we're going to talk about that a little bit towards the end of the video, but for now, let's break into the 4 mistakes and talk about exactly what's happening. Okay, now the first mistake is that there just isn't enough layering in the front. Now, the lack of layering in the front creates more fullness to the sides, which is creating this kind of very triangular shape and really bringing the eye down. If we broke up the front a bit more with layering, it would open her face up a lot more and give her more movement in general with the shape. Okay, mistake number 2 kind of compounds from mistake number 1, which is that there's just not enough layering internally or just in the back of the shape in general. Now, the big problem with this is one of the things Elizabeth mentioned in her email was that she's trying to utilize the curly girl method to create more wave in her shape. Unfortunately, with the amount of heaviness that comes with the amount of hair that Elizabeth has, she's going to need some sort of layering to really break up that bulk enough to actually get the wave that she's trying to achieve. Now, on top of that, this amount of bulk also creates more of that triangular shape that the first mistake was creating, so it's kind of even doubling up on the bigger concern. Now, if we even add more to this, if she were to create the amount of wave that she wanted with this amount of bulk, it would be even more to that concern of creating even more volume on the bottom, because wave always inherently creates the illusion of more fullness than hair that's laying flat and straight. So all of those things would tell me we need to have some layering internally for her to get the shape that she really wants to get. Okay, mistake number 3 is something that I hear all the time, so I'm glad I get to cover this. If we remember Elizabeth's email, she did mention that she's been using the curly girl method to create wave. She thinks that a lot of times that requires too much time and effort. She prefers her style to look less rigid and stiff and a little bit more just kind of whimsical and fun because that matches more with her personality. And it makes 100% perfect sense to me that if you see a style in a magazine that you really like, and it tends to be a little bit less contrived, it would make logical sense that you must need to put less effort into creating a less contrived look. right? The more perfect we want it, the longer it's going to take to achieve that perfection. That makes logical sense to me, but unfortunately, hair isn't always logical. And in this particular case, it's not. Many times, getting that very free, open, kind of fun and playful look, actually, depending on your texture, can require quite a bit more time and effort than you may realize. And so basically what we need to do with you, Elizabeth, in this particular case, is just really understand if the desired look that you want is worth the amount of effort it will take for you to achieve that particular look. Okay, mistake number 4 actually has to do with the color. Now, in Elizabeth's email, she also mentioned that she has been coloring her hair back to basically her natural brown. Now, I wasn't really sure if she's actually doing it physically herself at home or if she's having it done. But what I am seeing is that there's just a little bit of lack of dimension in it, meaning that there's just not quite enough separation in the tones. Now, here's the important part to catch on this. Adding more dimension will go a long way to creating more of that movement and texture and defining more of that movement and texture once she has it. So it's really going to enhance the overall look, which means that, back from mistake number 3, if you want to spend less time doing it, then having a little bit of dimension within the color will help to create some of that texture by itself. So the amount of texture or wave that you have to create or that your hair has to hold comes down a bit. It's a little bit less, and therefore your investment of time into creating that may be less. So it's kind of a win-win. Now here's even the benefit to this. Let's imagine that she's doing it at home. She's like, well, how do you create that at home? That can be a lot harder. Well, first of all, I'm going to link a video right here, as well as I'm going to put it in the description below, where I actually teach you exactly how to color your hair at home. It's actually far easier than you might expect. I got a step-by-step simple process to show you how to do that. But with that said, creating more dimension, if she's adding color to her roots, many times what people do is they pull that color through the ends pretty often, if not every time. Simply adding color to just the roots and covering up the roots for a while and not pulling it through the ends at all will actually allow the midshaft and the ends to lighten up, and that by itself can look like highlights and create more dimension. That's a very simple way to create the look that I'm talking about, spending very little money and making it very easy for you. So yeah, you're welcome. Okay, with that said, let's move on to actually addressing these concerns, and let me show you exactly what it would look like if Elizabeth took my advice and changed some things up. So let's do that now, but you know me, let's change backgrounds. Even though that background doesn't suck, and there's a waterfall there, you can't even see it. I can barely see it. So unfortunate, sorry, but okay, we're moving. Oh, and hey, if you've ever actually considered coloring or cutting your hair at home, but you've been a little bit nervous, I get it, because you didn't know if you were going to screw it up. Don't worry, there's one thing that I feel pretty good and confident about doing. That's explaining things and making things very simple for people. That's what I do on my channel. And I've done that as well in the masterclass that I created, where I actually teach you very simple steps to cutting and coloring your hair at home. So if that is something that you'd be interested in, there's a link in the description below. You can go ahead and check that out down there. For now, let's get back to the video. Okay, so let's get into suggestions. Now, the first 2 mistakes were basically just that it's underlayered. There's not enough layering in the front, there's not enough layering in the back, and this is really bringing to surface the concern that it's adding more bulk to the bottom and dragging the eye down, creating more of a triangular shape, and overall just not giving her hair as much movement as she would desire. So if we layered it a bit more all over, this is what that would look like. Now, as you can see, this gives her hair a lot more interest and movement, but more importantly, this shape would also address a lot of the things from her email. For instance, she mentioned she likes a soft, not rigid look, likes the idea of having a wavy style as well as wants different styling options. This shape would give her some great options for styling it straight, but it would also work very well for wavy, as well as it would look really good if she pulled it up and let some pieces kind of fall out. So really, there's a lot of options within a shape like this, and they all speak exactly to all of the things that Elizabeth is looking for. Okay, now mistakes number 3 and 4 were about the styling process, and the overall color just kind of lacking the dimension that I think would do her a lot of justice. So for that, I wanted to show you the same style that I just showed you, but with a little bit more dimension in the color, as well as styled a little bit more on the wavy side, so you could see this difference. So if we did that, this is what that would look like. Now I like this because it gives Elizabeth the softness that she likes, and the color gives the overall shape a lot more movement without veering too far from her current color, which means that she can use my trick of simply allowing the ends to fade to creating that little bit of a lighter look to get to that dimension. And the one thing to remember here is that this is still going to take a bit of styling to achieve. Once she lightens her hair up with layers, it's going to hold the wave a lot better than it did before. So she may not need to use quite as much styling product to get the end result. However, it's still going to require a certain level of time to style this in general. Now, I actually did consider talking about a loose wave perm or a body perm as an option for her, specifically because she is trying to create wave and she doesn't want to spend a lot of time on it. However, when doing that, I had to weigh out the idea of how much damage do we want to deal with to get the end result. And there are a lot of factors. My biggest concern is with the potential color that she's doing right now, even though she's not lightening her hair, there's still a certain amount of texture or damage that's going to come with adding that chemical process of the perm to this equation. So for me, I don't know that the benefit is there. I feel like the amount of damage could outweigh the potential ease of creating that daily style that she's trying to create. But with all that said, it is an option to consider. And so for you, if you're trying to determine is a perm a good idea for you, I would say if you find that it's hard to get your hair to hold wave or to be wavy, and you're trying to achieve that look over 75% of the time, then it may be something for you to consider. But if you're doing it less than that, I would be more apt to say, just go ahead and add the wave with a flat iron or a curling iron, and don't worry about adding that extra potential damage concern of doing the perm. Okay, so I said that we were going to talk about body shape and how it plays a factor into you determining what hairstyle is going to be best for you. So let's talk about that now. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you three kind of factors that play into this all, three things that you should think about when determining what style is best for you and working within your hairstyle and your body shape. But before I talk about these three factors, it's very important that you understand this one thing. What I'm about to share with you is an overall blanket statement. This is a rule of thumb. This is not something that you have to swear and live by. At the end of the day, regardless of what I say or anyone else says, the most important thing that you can do, in my opinion, is choose the style based on what you feel good in, period. All of the things that I say mean nothing if at the end of the day, you don't feel confident in what you're wearing. Now, knowing that, here are three factors that play a role in helping you determine how your hair shape should work with your body shape. Number one is simply asking yourself, what is your actual body shape? Are you short? Are you tall? Are you thin? Are you curvy? Understanding that is going to play a role in just determining even the length of your hair. Many times people that are taller or people that are a little bit more curvy tend to lean towards shapes that have a little bit more length to them or a little bit more fullness to them. If you are shorter, like myself, or very thin, you may like hair that's not quite as long or as full because that could overpower your overall shape. Number two is recognizing your hair texture. Recognize how dense your hair is in its natural texture and whether or not that density will allow for the length that you feel that you need to move towards. You may find that your hair should be on the longer side, but your hair texture won't allow it to be too long. So in that scenario, it's more important that we default to what looks best with your hair. Take it to the length necessary, as short as necessary, to get it to look strong and full, and then just leave it as long as that is, versus taking it even shorter than that. Now, number three, and this is absolutely the most important, so don't miss this one. Number three is reversing back to what I said before, numbers 1 and 2. Do what you think. Period. It doesn't matter if you feel like my body shape should have longer hair because I'm taller or I'm more curvy. If you feel more confident in shorter hair, do that. Period. That is the end game. If your body shape is smaller and thin and you feel like I should have shorter hair because I don't want it to overpower me if it's longer, but I feel way more confident and I feel like I rock longer hair, then you need to rock that longer hair. that's what you do. Because here's the most important thing of all of this. It's understanding that confidence is key. And when I say that, it's not just some sort of emotional pull. It isn't just like a, hey, feel good about yourself and everything will be great. It's to say that when you feel confident in anything, in your clothing, in your makeup, in your hair, etc., you're going to wear that differently than if you feel less confident in it. You are going to stand taller. You're going to raise your head more. You're going to put your chest out more. You're going to wear your hair versus your hair wearing you. You want to feel more youthful? Feel more confident. Feel good. Truly love what you're wearing. That's why that's so important. I know I didn't jump into curveballs like I typically would in this series, but I felt that it was more important to hit on that particular insight rather than show you a bunch of random different styles that might look good on Elizabeth, when in reality, what Elizabeth said in her email, the styles that I did show actually I think would work the best for her because it kind of hits on all of her concerns. But for you, I want to know, what do you think she should do? Do you think she should go with the shape that I chose? Or do you think she should do something completely different? What are your thoughts when it comes to her body shape and her haircut and her hairstyle? So let me know, and otherwise, I appreciate you hanging out. It is shockingly muggy out here. It's very humid. I'm kind of surprised. It's not like that very often here. So, well, I'm going to enjoy this view that you can barely see because it's so bright, but it's really beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and join it, and I will see you next week. Take care now.